All right, get ready because today we are going deep, really deep into some wild territory.
Oh, yeah.
Raja Yoga and Sampha, wait for it, powers. And not like,
Like superhero movies.
yeah, not the superhero movie kind, but the kind that have been talked about for like centuries.
Right.
Things like, invisibility,
Oh, wow.
knowing past lives,
Okay.
even understanding like what animals are saying.
Really?
Yeah, so we're talking about Swami Vivekananda's commentary on the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali,
Okay.
specifically chapter 3, which really gets into like the details,
The nitty-gritty.
nitty-gritty, yeah, of all these like they're called siddhis, but we can call them powers.
Yeah. So these powers, though, they aren't like the goal of Raja Yoga.
Oh.
They're more like, markers along the way,
Yeah.
like signposts.
I think.
The really interesting thing is that the ultimate aim is something called Kaivalya.
Kaivalya.
Yeah. It's basically like, liberation, self-realization.
So it's not about like becoming some kind of superhuman, but more about a deeper understanding of yourself and everything.
Yeah, exactly. The universe.
The universe, yeah.
The text seems to be saying that these powers are a natural outcome of like mastering your mind.
Okay.
It's like as you get better, you refine these mental processes and these abilities just kind of emerge.
But it also sounds like there's some like serious things to watch out for.
Absolutely. Think about it this way.
Yeah.
You're on this, quest searching for some incredible treasure.
Okay.
And along the way, you pick up all these cool tools and gadgets.
Okay.
But if you get so focused on the gadgets,
Right.
you might totally forget about the real prize.
Right.
The text warns against getting caught up in the allure of these powers.
Okay, so before we get too far, let's break this down a bit.
Okay.
What exactly is Raja Yoga?
Right.
I mean, most people, when they think about yoga, they think about,
Stretching.
yeah, stretching and poses.
The poses.
Right.
But Raja Yoga is often called like the royal path.
Okay.
It's way more about mental and spiritual discipline
I see.
than just the physical side.
Right.
It's about cultivating this deep understanding of how your mind works.
Okay, so this is where things start to get, like, really interesting.
Okay.
The text talks about these 3 practices
Yeah.
that lead to, developing these powers.
Yeah.
Dharana, dhyana, and samadhi.
Mm.
Have you ever, like, gotten so engrossed in something, like painting or reading a really good book, that you completely lose track of time?
Oh, all the time.
So that feeling, that complete absorption,
Yeah.
that's actually like a glimpse of dhyana.
Okay.
Dharana is like the first step, like focusing a beam of light.
Right.
And then dhyana is when that focus becomes steady,
Okay.
unwavering.
Mm.
And then samadhi is like losing yourself entirely
Wow.
in that light, becoming one with like the object of your focus.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
Yeah. And when you combine all 3 of those
Right.
and really like hone them in on a specific goal, that's called Samyama.
Samyama.
And that's when the text says that all these extraordinary powers can start to show up.
All right, so let's get to the good stuff.
Okay.
What kind of powers are we talking about?
Well, the text mentions some pretty incredible abilities.
Like what?
Like, for instance, the ability to know your past and future lives.
Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Past lives. Like reincarnation.
Yes. The text assumes reincarnation is real
Right.
and suggests that with, deep concentration,
Right.
you can access memories from those past lifetimes.
That's like wild.
Imagine tapping into this vast well of experience beyond just your current life.
Yeah,
What would you discover about yourself?
that's a great question.
Right.
Okay, what else?
How about understanding what animals are trying to tell us?
Really?
Imagine
That would be amazing.
being able to decode the language of birds, your dog, even insects.
So I'd finally know what my cat was plotting.
What secrets might they reveal?
Right. What about things like, invisibility?
Yeah.
Can I literally disappear like Harry Potter?
Well, it's not quite invisibility as we typically imagine it.
Okay.
The text describes it more as like withdrawing your presence from perception, blending into the background without being noticed.
Okay.
It's less about like optical illusion
Right.
and more about mastering your own energy and how you project it.
Still pretty cool.
Right.
Okay, what about the physical things it mentions?
Yeah.
Like walking on fire or being as light as a feather.
Right.
Are those, like, literally possible?
Well, the text presents these as side effects of like really deep mental control. The idea being that when you fully master your mind,
Right.
you gain a level of mastery over your body.
Okay.
And its limitations that most of us can't even fathom.
So it's not about, like, defying physics,
Right.
but pushing the boundaries of human potential through, like, intense mental discipline.
Exactly.
Okay.
But this is where we need to, like, tread carefully. The text also cautions against, like, getting too caught up in these extraordinary powers.
Wait, why?
Hmm.
They sound incredible.
Remember that treasure analogy?
Yeah.
Getting fixated on the gadgets could distract you from the ultimate goal.
Right.
The text suggests these powers can be like tempting distractions
Mm.
from the true path of liberation of Kaivalya.
So it's like a spiritual trap?
Yeah.
You think you're progressing?
But you're actually moving further away from the real goal.
Yeah, I see that.
The text even talks about like temptations
Okay.
from celestial beings, gods, or other higher entities
Oh, wow.
who might try to lure someone with powers away from the path of true liberation.
This is getting intense.
Yeah.
So how do you, like, avoid those traps?
Right.
What's the key?
The text repeatedly emphasizes something called viveka.
Viveka.
Yeah, which means like discrimination.
Okay.
It's the ability to tell the difference between what's real and lasting, the eternal self or purusha, and what's unreal, the constantly changing world of like our thoughts and perceptions.
Okay, so it's about seeing through the illusions of the material world and understanding your true self.
Exactly.
But how does that relate to these powers?
Well, the text suggests that true power comes from recognizing that your true self isn't bound by the limitations of your physical body or your constantly chattering mind. The powers themselves are simply tools, and their value depends entirely on how you use them.
So if you're just chasing these powers to, like, boost your ego or for personal gain,
Right.
you're missing the point entirely.
Exactly. The text says that those who have truly mastered these powers eventually transcend them altogether, reaching a state of inner peace and clarity that's far more valuable than any external ability.
Wow.
This state is described as the Dharma Mega, which translates to cloud of virtue.
That sounds incredible, but how do you get there?
Right.
What does the text say about actually developing these powers in the first place?
Well, it outlines a few different approaches,
Yep.
some a bit more extreme than others.
Okay, hit me with it.
One method the text mentions is mortification.
Mortification,
Yeah.
like self-punishment.
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
The text acknowledges that through extreme asceticism
Okay.
and putting your body through severe hardship, you can generate a particular kind of energy that can awaken these latent powers.
So it's like,
Think of the stories you hear about yogis standing on one leg for years.
right.
Or holding their arms up until they wither away.
Yeah, I think I'll pass on that one.
Right.
What are some of the other options?
Well, there's the power of words,
Word.
specifically mantras.
Mantras, like chanting.
Exactly. Certain sacred sounds or phrases, when repeated with the right intention and focus,
Right.
are said to have the power to influence consciousness and awaken hidden abilities.
So there's this belief that words have a kind of vibrational power
Yeah.
that can tap into deeper levels of reality.
That's the idea, but again,
Right. The text warns against misusing mantras for selfish purposes.
yeah, maybe not the best idea to start chanting for lottery numbers.
Right, exactly.
What's next?
The text also mentioned the use of chemical means.
Chemical means, like potions or elixirs.
You could say that. There's a long tradition in India known as Rasa Vidya,
Rasa Vidya.
which explores using herbs, minerals, and even metals
Okay.
for spiritual transformation and awakening hidden powers.
Wow. So it's like alchemy, but with a spiritual twist.
Exactly. But again,
Right.
the text stresses the importance of right intention
Right.
and guidance when working with these powerful substances.
Yeah, I can imagine there's a lot of potential for things to go wrong if you're messing around with potent chemicals without the proper knowledge.
You got it.
Okay, so I've got mortification, mantras, and alchemy.
Right.
Are there any other methods for attaining these powers?
Well, there's one more method the text considers the most direct and powerful:
Okay, what is it?
samadhi.
Achieved through intense concentration.
Right. We talked about dharana, dhyana, and samadhi as like core practices in Raja Yoga.
Yeah.
So you're saying that it's through deep meditation and mental mastery that these powers are like most effectively unlocked.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By stilling the fluctuations of your mind and reaching a state of deep absorption,
Mm.
you can access the latent potential within and awaken these extraordinary abilities.
This is all so fascinating, but I have to admit, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah,
Can you break down these different methods a bit more? Like, how do they actually work?
sure.
What's the mechanism behind them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the text goes into quite a bit of detail about that.
Okay.
But before we get into, like the mechanics,
Right.
we need to understand a key concept in Raja Yoga,
Okay.
the nature of the mind itself.
Okay, I'm ready for another mind-blowing revelation.
Okay.
Tell me more about how Raja Yoga views the mind.
Okay, so the text describes the mind, or chitta, as this vast field of consciousness, a kind of mental substance that's constantly in motion, flitting between different thoughts, impressions, and feelings.
They're like a wild monkey swinging from branch to branch.
That's a classic analogy,
Yeah.
and a good one.
Okay.
The issue, according to Raja Yoga,
Okay.
is that we tend to identify ourselves
Yeah.
with this constantly fluctuating mind,
Right.
with its ever-changing desires, emotions, and thoughts.
So we're letting this monkey run the show, basically.
You could say that.
Okay.
And as long as we're caught up in that identification,
Hmm.
we're subject to all the limitations and whims of the mind.
Right.
We experience suffering, anxiety,
Right.
and this feeling of separation from our true nature.
Okay, so how do we tame this wild monkey?
Yeah.
Where do all these methods for attaining powers fit into this picture?
Each method, in its own way,
Yeah.
aims to still the fluctuations of the mind,
Okay.
to create a space of calm and clarity where you can recognize your true self.
So instead of a churning whirlpool,
Right.
we're aiming for a calm, reflective pool.
Precisely. And when the mind becomes still, the
Well-
true nature of the self, the Purusha, can be reflected more clearly.
And it's in this state of clarity and stillness that the potential for these powers becomes accessible.
Exactly. The text suggests that these powers aren't something we acquire from outside ourselves,
Okay.
but rather latent potentials within our own consciousness
Mm.
that become accessible when the mind is purified and refined.
Like a diamond that's already there but needs to be cut and polished to reveal its brilliance.
Beautiful analogy.
Right.
And each method we've discussed is like a different tool for polishing the mind.
Okay.
Mortification, for example,
Yeah.
works by breaking down the ego and its attachments
Right.
through intense discipline and self-denial.
So it's kind of like forging a sword in fire,
Yes.
where the intense heat and pressure transform the metal into something like stronger and more refined.
Yes, exactly. Mantras, on the other hand,
Okay.
work through sound and vibration. They create a resonance within the mind that can help dissolve mental blocks
Okay.
and awaken dormant energies.
Like using a tuning fork to bring an instrument into harmony.
Yes,
The right frequency creates resonance and balance.
precisely. And the chemical approaches work
Yeah.
by influencing the subtle energies of the body and mind.
It's almost like using a catalyst to speed up a chemical reaction. Certain substances can help create the right conditions for transformation.
It's a good way to think about it, but the
Uh-huh.
text is clear that all these methods are just tools.
Right.
The real key is the intention and understanding behind how they're used.
So it's not enough to just go through the motions.
Right.
You need to have the right mindset,
Exactly.
a clear understanding of what you're doing
Yes,
and why.
exactly. And this is where samadhi, that deep concentration we discussed, comes in.
Okay.
It's the most direct path
Huh.
because it doesn't rely on anything external.
Right.
It's about cultivating inner strength and clarity
Mm.
through the sheer power of focused attention.
Kind of like building a muscle.
Yes,
The more you train your mind to focus,
right.
the stronger it becomes.
Precisely. And as the mind becomes stronger and more refined,
Mm.
those veils of ignorance that cloud our true nature start to fall away.
Okay.
We begin to see ourselves and the world around us much more clearly.
And that's where the real power lies.
Exactly. The powers described in the text are just byproducts of this inner transformation. They're like signposts along the way,
Okay.
indicators that you're moving in the right direction.
Right.
But the real goal is liberation.
Hmm.
Freedom from the limitations of the mind
Okay.
and the realization of your true nature.
So these powers aren't something to chase after for their own sake.
Right.
They're more like a reflection of your inner state.
Precisely. They're a manifestation of the power and clarity that comes with self-realization.
Okay.
But if we become attached to the powers themselves, we risk getting completely sidetracked from the true path.
Like mistaking the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself.
A perfect analogy.
Wow.
The powers are just pointers guiding us toward the ultimate goal of liberation.
Right.
But the real journey is an inward one, a journey of self-discovery and transformation.
It's pretty mind-blowing to consider that these powers might actually be attainable.
Yeah,
What does that mean for us as humans if these abilities are truly within our grasp?
that's a deep question.
It is.
And the text encourages us to really contemplate this. The very possibility that we possess these latent potentials, these extraordinary abilities,
Yeah.
challenges our understanding of who we are
Right.
and what we're truly capable of.
It really shakes things up, doesn't it?
Sure.
Imagine if we could really understand animals or know our past lives.
Right.
It would change everything.
It would definitely raise some profound questions
Yeah.
about the nature of reality, the limits of our perception, and the interconnectedness of all things.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all.
It's a lot.
But the text is also pretty clear about, like, the potential dangers, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That these powers can be distractions or even cause harm if they're misused.
The text emphasizes that these aren't toys to be played with.
Okay.
They're potent forces that need to be approached with respect, humility,
Right.
and a deep understanding of their true nature.
So it's not just about gaining power,
Right.
but about wisdom and discernment.
Yes.
About using that power for good
Exactly.
and not letting it corrupt you.
The text highlights the importance of ethical considerations, of aligning your actions with the principles of dharma, which is righteous conduct.
Okay.
True power isn't about dominance or control,
Right.
but about service and liberation.
So it's not about becoming a superhero,
Right.
but about becoming a better human being.
You could say that the real transformation isn't about gaining some extraordinary ability,
Okay.
but about cultivating compassion, wisdom, and a deep understanding of how interconnected we all are.
This is so much more than I ever imagined when we started talking about superpowers.
Yeah.
It's really a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth.
Exactly. And the text suggests that this journey isn't just for some select few.
Okay.
It's a path open to anyone willing to put in the effort
Right.
and cultivate the necessary qualities of mind and heart.
So it's not about some exclusive club of enlightened beings.
Right.
Anyone could potentially attain these powers.
Yeah.
And even more importantly, this state of liberation.
That's the core message of Raja Yoga. It's about recognizing the inherent potential within each of us
Right.
and then cultivating the tools and understanding to unlock that potential.
It's incredibly inspiring, but I have to admit, a part of me is still skeptical.
Yeah, I understand.
Is there any actual evidence that these powers are real?
Right.
Has anyone ever actually achieved them?
That's a question that's been debated for centuries.
Right.
The text presents these powers as genuine possibilities, but it also acknowledges that they're incredibly difficult to attain
Right.
and even harder to verify.
So it comes down to faith rather than scientific proof.
You could say that,
Okay.
but maybe the most compelling evidence is the transformative power of these practices.
Okay.
Even if you don't end up, like, manifesting supernatural abilities. Throughout history, countless people have experienced the profound benefits of meditation,
Right.
concentration, and ethical conduct,
Right.
regardless of whether they attained any superpowers.
So even if we don't end up levitating or reading minds, the journey itself is worth it.
Yeah.
That inner transformation,
Right.
that peace and clarity is the real treasure.
Precisely.
Yeah.
The text emphasizes that the true value of these practices lies in their ability to free us from suffering, ignorance, and attachment.
Okay.
They lead us toward a state of lasting peace, fulfillment, and liberation.
Hmm.
Whether or not you manifest extraordinary powers is secondary to that inner transformation.
This has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored Raja Yoga,
Right.
the idea of attaining these incredible powers,
Yeah.
and what all of this means for our understanding of human potential
Right.
and the very nature of reality.
It's a lot.
It really is.
And we've really only scratched the surface.
Right.
There's so much more to explore in this complex and fascinating system of thought.
I'm definitely feeling inspired to learn more.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I want to bring it back to our listener.
Yes, let's connect all of this to the bigger picture.
What does it mean for you?
If what the text says is true,
Right.
these powers are latent within each of us.
Right.
What does that possibility mean to you?
Does it ignite a sense of wonder? excitement,
Mm.
maybe a bit of skepticism.
And even if we set aside the question of supernatural abilities,
Right.
what aspects of Raja Yoga resonate with your own experiences and aspirations?
Do the practices of concentration, meditation, or ethical conduct hold any appeal for you?
These are questions worth pondering.
They are.
We encourage you to keep exploring these ideas.
Yeah.
And maybe even share your own insights with others.
Yeah, this has been a journey of discovery for us,
It really has.
and we hope it sparked a similar journey for you.
It's a lot to think about, right?
It is. So where were we?
You were about to tell me how Raja Yoga views the mind.
Oh, right. Yeah. So the text describes the mind, or chitta,
Hmm.
as this vast field of consciousness, like a kind of mental substance that's constantly moving.
Okay.
It's always flitting between thoughts, impressions, and feelings.
So is it like that analogy of the wild monkey just swinging from branch to branch?
That's a good one.
It is a classic.
And a good one, yeah. The problem,
Yeah.
according to Raja Yoga,
Okay.
is that we tend to identify ourselves
Hmm.
with this mind that's always changing,
Okay.
with its desires and emotions and thoughts that are never the same.
So we're kind of letting this monkey run the show.
Yeah, you could say that.
Okay.
And as long as we're caught up in that.
We're subject to all the limitations of the mind.
Right.
We experience suffering and anxiety and this feeling of separation from our true nature.
So how do we tame this wild monkey?
Right. Good question.
Where do these methods for attaining powers fit in?
Well, each of these methods, in its own way,
Yeah.
aims to still the fluctuations of the mind,
Mm-hmm.
to create a space of calm and clarity
Right.
where you can recognize your true self.
So instead of this, like, churning whirlpool,
Yeah.
it's more like a still, reflective pool.
Precisely.
Okay.
And when the mind is still,
Mm,
the true nature of the self, the Purusha can be reflected more clearly.
I see. And is it in this state of clarity and stillness that the potential for these powers becomes accessible?
Exactly. The text suggests that these powers aren't something we get from outside of ourselves.
Okay.
They're already there, latent potentials within our own consciousness
Hmm.
that become accessible when the mind is purified and refined.
So, like, kind of like a diamond that's already there, but it needs to be cut and polished
Beautiful analogy.
to reveal its brilliance.
Yeah,
Like-
and each method we've discussed
Right.
is like a different tool for polishing the mind.
Okay.
For example, mortification
Mortification.
works by breaking down the ego and its attachments through intense discipline and self-denial.
So it's like forging a sword in fire.
Yeah,
The intense heat and pressure transform the metal into something stronger
yes.
and more refined.
Mantras, on the other hand,
Okay.
work through sound and vibration.
Right.
They create a resonance
Mm.
within the mind
Okay.
that can help dissolve mental blocks and awaken those dormant energies.
So kind of like using a tuning fork
Mm-hmm.
to bring an instrument into harmony.
Yeah.
The right frequency creates that resonance and balance.
Precisely. And then the chemical approaches
Yeah.
work by influencing the subtle energies of the body and mind.
It's almost like they're using a catalyst
Right.
to speed up a chemical reaction.
Yeah.
Certain substances can help create the right conditions for transformation.
That's a good way to think about it. But the
Well-
text makes it clear that these methods are all just tools.
Right.
The real key is the intention and understanding behind them.
So it's not enough to just go through the motions.
Right.
You need to have the right mindset,
It's exact.
an understanding of what you're doing
Yeah.
and why you're doing it.
Exactly. And that's where samadhi comes in.
Okay.
That deep concentration we were talking about.
Right.
It's the most direct path because it doesn't rely on anything outside of you.
Mm.
It's about cultivating inner strength and clarity
Okay.
through the power of focused attention.
So kind of like we were talking about building a muscle.
Yes.
The more you train your mind to focus,
Right.
the stronger it gets.
Precisely. And as the mind gets stronger and more refined, those veils of ignorance that cloud our true nature start to disappear.
And is that where the real power lies?
Exactly. The powers described in the text are just byproducts of this inner transformation. They're like signposts along the way,
Right.
letting you know you're moving in the right direction.
Okay.
But the real goal is liberation, freedom from the limits of the mind, and realizing your true nature.
So these powers aren't something to chase after just for the sake of having them.
Right.
They're more like a reflection of your inner state.
Precisely.
Okay.
They show the power and clarity that comes with self-realization.
Right.
But if we become attached to the powers themselves, we risk getting totally sidetracked from the true path.
It's like mistaking the finger pointing at the moon for the moon itself.
Perfect analogy. The powers are just pointing us towards that ultimate goal of liberation.
Right.
But the real journey is inward.
Okay.
A journey of self-discovery and transformation.
It's pretty mind-blowing to think that these powers might actually be possible.
It is, isn't it?
What does that even mean for us if we really could do these things?
That is a deep question.
It is.
And the text encourages us to really think about it.
Mm.
The possibility that we have these potentials,
Right.
these extraordinary abilities,
Yeah.
changes how we understand who we are
Yeah.
and what we're capable of.
It really shakes things up.
It does.
Imagine if we really could understand animals
Right.
or know our past lives.
Wow.
It would change everything.
It would bring up some really big questions
Yeah.
about reality and how we see things and how everything is connected.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all.
It is a lot to take in.
The text is pretty clear about the dangers too, right?
Absolutely.
That these powers can distract us
Yeah.
or even cause harm if they're misused.
The text emphasizes that these aren't toys.
Okay.
They're powerful forces and need to be approached with respect and humility
Right.
and a deep understanding of their true nature.
So it's not just about getting power.
Right.
It's also about wisdom
Yes.
and using that power for good
Exactly.
and not letting it corrupt you.
The text really stresses ethical considerations,
Okay.
making sure your actions are aligned with Dharma,
Dharma.
which means doing what's right.
Okay.
True power isn't about being in control. It's about service and liberation.
So it's not about becoming some kind of superhero.
Right.
But about becoming a better human being.
You could say that
Right.
the real change isn't about gaining some extraordinary ability.
Right.
It's about developing compassion, wisdom, and understanding how connected we all are.
This is so much more than I thought it would be when we started talking about superpowers.
It is, isn't it?
It's really a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth.
Exactly. And the text says this journey isn't just for a select few.
Okay.
This path is open to anyone who's willing to put in the effort
Right.
and cultivate the necessary qualities of mind and heart.
So it's not like some exclusive club.
Right.
Anyone could attain these powers and this state of liberation.
That's the message of Raja Yoga.
Okay.
It's about seeing the potential in everyone and then developing the tools and understanding to unlock that potential.
It's incredibly inspiring, but a part of me is still a little skeptical.
Yeah, I get that.
Is there any proof that these powers are real? Has anyone actually achieved them?
That question has been debated for centuries.
I bet.
The text says they are real possibilities,
Okay.
but also that they're incredibly hard to attain
Right.
and even harder to verify.
So does it come down to faith?
You could say that,
Okay.
but maybe the best evidence is the transformative power of these practices.
Okay.
Even if you don't end up like levitating or something,
Right.
throughout history, countless people have experienced profound benefits from things like meditation,
Yeah.
concentration, ethical conduct,
Right.
regardless of whether they attained any superpowers.
So even if we don't end up with superpowers, the journey is still worthwhile.
Yeah,
That inner transformation, that peace and clarity are what's valuable.
exactly.
Okay.
The text emphasizes that the real value of these practices is that they free us from suffering and ignorance and attachment. They lead us towards a state of lasting peace and fulfillment and liberation. Whether or not you manifest extraordinary powers isn't as important as that inner transformation.
It's all pretty profound stuff.
It is, yeah.
We've explored Raja Yoga,
Right.
the idea of attaining these incredible powers,
Yeah.
and what it all means for understanding human potential,
Absolutely.
and the very nature of reality.
It's a lot.
It is a lot to think about.
Yeah, we've only scratched the surface.
Right.
There's so much more to explore in this system of thought.
Well, I'm definitely feeling inspired to learn more.
I am too.
But before we finish up,
Okay.
I want to bring it back to our listener.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for you?
You know, if what the text says is true, and these powers are within us,
Right.
what does that possibility mean to you?
Does it make you feel a sense of wonder? Excitement? Maybe a little skepticism?
Even if we put aside the idea of supernatural abilities,
Yeah. What parts of Raja Yoga resonate with you?
do the practices of concentration, meditation, or ethical conduct appeal to you at all?
It's a lot to consider, right?
It is.
And we encourage you to keep exploring these ideas and maybe even share your own insights with others.
Yeah, this has been a really incredible journey for us.
It has.
And we hope it sparked a similar journey for you.
It really makes you think, if we really were capable of these things,
Yeah.
would it change how we see ourselves?
Yeah.
Like in the big picture of it all?
It's a big question.
It is.
I mean, if we could know someone's past lives or communicate with animals,
Right.
wouldn't that, like, completely change how we see our place in the universe?
It really would.
Yeah, it's a lot to consider.
And the text doesn't give us any easy answers.
Right.
It's like it's inviting us to think about all the ethical and philosophical implications of these teachings.
Which is probably good.
Yeah.
It's like we're given a glimpse of these incredible possibilities.
Right.
And then we have to figure out what it all means. Exactly. That's one of the things that makes it so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not just about the information. It's about engaging in this process of self-inquiry.
So it's not like a textbook.
No.
It's like an invitation to discover.
Yeah, and that journey, that process of self-transformation is ultimately more valuable than any power or ability.
This deep dive has been incredible.
It has.
We've explored Raja Yoga.
Right.
We've talked about attaining these incredible powers.
Yeah.
And what all of this means for our understanding of human potential and reality itself.
It's been a journey.
It has.
And we've seen that true power isn't about supernatural abilities.
Right.
It's about transforming our consciousness.
Yeah.
It's about realizing our potential for wisdom and compassion and liberation.
So as we wrap things up,
Yeah.
a final thought for our listeners.
What possibilities have come to mind for you today?
What parts of Raja Yoga resonate with your own journey?
How can you take these teachings and apply them to your life?
And not necessarily to gain superpowers, but to cultivate a deeper understanding of yourself.
And the world around you.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
The journey is just beginning,